Welcome to episode 15 of Motivating Mondays, a weekly podcast and YouTube series dedicated to help Canadian job developers and other employer engagement professionals develop the tools, resources, expertise, and network needed to excel in achieving sustainable employment outcomes for their clients or students. My name is Christian St. Cyr, National Director of the Canadian Job Development Network, and today we're talking about using discovery to build relationships with employers and to be able to effectively speak to their needs when pitching clients or students. This is now week 3 of our 6-week series on best practices in employer engagement. We're nearly halfway through, but we still have topics on community leadership, effective follow-up, and working with other employer engagement professionals to create even better results than you can on your own. Getting to know the challenges and daily reality of employers is the best way of building trust, coaching clients, and suggesting individuals who can address a broad array of problems that employers may face. Not everyone loves it when I make parallels between the work job developers do and that of salespeople, so let's choose something a little closer to home. When you are a case manager, an employment counselor, or a career advisor, and you're doing an intake appointment, you take time to ask probative questions and make informed suggestions. Can you imagine if the case manager immediately broke into suggested interventions upon meeting the client for the first time? The client or student sits down and the case manager immediately suggests different resume styles, or taking a job search workshop focused on social media, or perhaps enrolling in a first aid course. Do you think that the client in this situation would feel understood in that moment? Even worse, would those suggestions even address the challenges the client is really struggling with? While it may not always be labeled this way, we're talking about a process of discovery where the case manager learns personal insights into the challenges that the job seeker faces, the strengths that they can build on, and their short and long-term goals. Because it's a highly personalized process, a good case manager will tailor their questions as they learn more information. They may start off with general questions about job search, career planning, education, and employment maintenance. But as they ask questions and they identify areas of significant concern, they will suggest interventions and options that address the client's primary concerns. This not only helps the case manager develop an informed action plan, but helps demonstrate to the client or the student that they understand their challenges, they're prepared to support them in overcoming them, and they have the tools, resources, and expertise to achieve this. This is exactly the approach job developers should adopt in bringing solutions to employers. So let me give you an example of basic job development. I knock on the door of an employer and they answer the door asking, "Hey, how can I help you?" And I say, "Hi, my name's Christian St. Cyr and I work with Ajax Employment Services, and we have a number of programs or services that can assist you with the hiring process. Are you looking to hire right now? Can I share some information with you?" To this, the employer may reply, "No, I'm sorry, not right now." Or we're fully staffed. Or we typically advise people to check out our job postings on Indeed, and then we select the candidates that we'd prefer to hire. The problem with this example, as I've made it, it's all about me, my organization, and the services that we provide. I've asked nothing about the person I'm talking to, or their organization, or their needs. So let's try this a slightly different way. I knock on the door and say, "Hi, my name is Christian St. Cyr and I work for Ajax Employment Services. I'm meeting with local employers to get a sense of some of their recruitment and retention challenges. Do you have a few minutes just for 2 or 3 questions?" Now, there's no guarantee that this will still work. They could easily reply, "No, I'm sorry," or "I'm very busy," or "This is a really bad time. Can you try back later?" Maybe they say, "We really don't see any value in government-funded programming." While these aren't exactly the encouraging responses you're looking for, at least we have a mutual understanding that, right now, they're not interested. This said, there will be a portion of employers who are willing to invest a few minutes in 2 or 3 quick questions. So in a moment, I'm going to share some of those questions, but these are only suggestions. You need to be comfortable with what you ask, but what you want to do is to better understand the employer and give them an opportunity to verbalize their thoughts. So these are some questions that you might want to draw on. For instance, what sort of roles do you typically hire for? How do you promote those roles? What does your recruitment process look like? What distinguishes your business? Who is your major competition? What do your customers most like about your business? What are you most proud of in your organization? What motivates your staff? Where do you see your organization going in the years to come? Now, wait a minute. You may be thinking, wait, there's more than 3 questions. We can't lie to employers, ask for 3 questions, and then ask 12. No, I don't think we should lie to employers. And truly, the first 3 questions are the most valuable. What are the roles that you hire for right now? How do you promote them? And what does recruitment look like? Because this gives you valuable insights that you can take back to your clients or students. Once I'd asked these 3 questions, I'd be inclined to ask if they are comfortable sharing a little bit more, if I could ask a couple of extra questions, and really respect their choice, thanking them for what they have shared already. Just getting an employer to share what they're thinking creates an environment where people are willing to share even more. Remember, if the employer is talking, you're building relationship and trust with them. If you're talking, the employer is building resistance to what you have to say. By the way, there's an intrinsic formula to the questions that I noted above. They start off with these nice left brain questions with concrete answers. As you move down the list, the questions become more right brain, speaking to values or principles or emotional perspectives. If you meet someone at a dinner party and they ask you, well, what do you do for a living? You would likely share the answer. But if they asked you, what makes you a good parent? Your response would be much more short and more cautious. We need to warm up to values-based questions. As you gather feedback, you want to look for potential problems the employer faces. Now, some of these problems might include things like they are being ghosted by the best employees. People are underqualified. People are inflexible in scheduling and availability. Candidates want hybrid and this employer can't accommodate it. Applicants lack certification or a particular training program. Employees are unreliable. Candidates want too much money. Or maybe employers get bogged down in administration. Perhaps there's poor interview performance among people who are coming in for interviews. Or maybe there's just a lack of applicants who are applying for the jobs that they're posting. Understanding these problems allows you to eventually suggest candidates who can address these problems. You may follow up with an employer in a day or 2 and say something like, hey, you mentioned that employees are unreliable. Well, I'm currently working with someone who's fanatic about showing up for work 15 minutes early. And in their last job, they didn't call in sick once in 2 years. Good discovery not only allows us to build relationships with employers, but it also helps us address their biggest concerns. Gathering information about an employer's major challenges also allows you to speak to the financial impact of continuing to operate as they have. In business, they refer to something called opportunity cost. Once you've identified the problem that the employer is struggling with, for instance, the revolving door of employees, you can then turn that into a number. Typically, this will be wages being lost or the time of the employer spent in continuous recruitment. This can amount to thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of dollars. The opportunity cost is the amount of money that it would cost to not solve this problem. You want to show the status quo is expensive. How will their current plan impact the business a year from now? Maybe they'll shrink instead of grow. Maybe they'll lose valuable employees due to organizational stress or miss out on new contracts or other opportunities if they continue as they're continuing. I wouldn't necessarily hit an employer over the head with this, but it might be valuable to say something like, I know having this position unfilled is costing your company a lot of money and adding increased stress to the rest of the team. I believe my client could become a valuable asset that helps alleviate this stress and contributes to the team. Now, discovery isn't just a skill utilized by employers, isn't just a skill utilized by employment counselors and case managers. It is a skill used by all professionals. It's actually one of the things that defines what a professional is. We wouldn't want a doctor who diagnosed us without knowing what hurts, or a lawyer who suggested a pathway without understanding our legal problem, or a counselor who told us why we're angry without listening to our story. In the past 2 weeks, we've been talking about pitching and prospecting, but this week is all about getting to know local employers. If you put away your brochures and spent 75% of your time just getting to know local employers and asking them intelligent, probative questions, you'll find it far more likely that they will ask you about suitable candidates rather than you having to sell them your clients or students. As you likely know, we've officially launched registration for the 2025 National Networking Day for Job Developers, and it's taking place on September 19th in communities across Canada. One of the key pieces of feedback we've received is that many job developers do not have a budget to cover this cost. So, after much contemplation, to ensure maximum attendance possible in all communities, we've decided to waive the cost of registration, so now attendance will be free in every community. Anybody who's already registered, we're going to be refunding their registration cost. Our goal is to have all employer engagement professionals in any community attend, and we don't want costs to be a limiting factor or keeping anybody out of that session. Now, we already have 16 communities arranged, and we're adding more. If we don't have one happening in your community, maybe your organization would be interested in hosting one. There is no direct cost to hosting a session. All people need to do is go to jobdevelopment.org/sponsors. Now, if you are attending or hosting is of interest to you, just go to jobdevelopment.org to learn more information and click on the NND tab or the sponsors tab, or click on this QR code. By the way, we also got a lot of feedback about our online training, Developing a Comprehensive Approach to Job Development. Many of you have already taken this, but a lot of new job development and employer engagement professionals have joined organizations, and organizations are wondering if we could arrange a training. So we are organizing a new series of sessions leading up to National Networking Day for Job Developers, and there will be one for each time zone starting September 8th and running through the 12th. You can learn more about this just by going to jobdevelopment.org and click on the Pro D tab or use this QR code. Thank you so much for joining us. Please click the like or subscribe button in the platform. We'd also love it if you could rate or review the podcast. Now, we do these sessions live and for free every Monday morning with job developers from across Canada, and we'd love it if you could join us. Just go to jobdevelopment.org to learn more. If you have any questions, send us an email at info@jobdevelopment.org. Thank you so much for your time and have an amazing week.